I think in the first year that I was at Google Ventures, we go to do this sprint with this company, and the founders of the company were the founders of YouTube. And John, who was in the sprint with me, knew them because he had worked on YouTube for a long time and was a lead designer there. But to me, these guys are like celebrities.
We prepared something here, and we want to invite people to share their, let's say, funny stories. So what is less about how impactful or what a wonderful product came out of that, but let's say more about what kind of strange situations you had with the design sprint. Who would like to start? John, do you want to start?
Okay, so you know how you probably know that like one of the top questions people have about design sprints is, does it have to take 5 days? That's so much time. You know, can I do it faster? Can I do it shorter? And now we know that you can, you know, within reason. You can't make it 2 days. You can't make it 3 days, but like you can do it in 4 days. It's possible. But back in 2017, this was before I left Google Ventures, I was still like, no, I think you need 5 days. And I had gone to Seattle to work with one of our startups on a sprint. And I knew somebody who worked at the company, a really good friend of mine that had hired me many years before. So we had talked a lot about the company and the challenges. We start the sprint. We do the first day, Monday, by the book. Everything's going great. It feels, really like we're sharing, everybody's sharing their insights. We're getting a great map, et cetera. And we get to the very end of Monday, and everybody is saying, here's what I think the target is, here's what I think we should do, these are the most important questions. And finally I turned to the CEO, the decider, and I'm like, okay, what do you think? Are we on the right track here? And he's like, I think we're doing the sprint on the wrong thing. I was like, what? He's like, I think we chose the wrong project. This is all really interesting, but I think we chose the wrong project. And I was like freaking out, because like most of the sprints that I had been in before, like I had co-facilitated, I had been with Jake or somebody else, but I was by myself. I was in Seattle, had done, burned a full day on this. And so we talked a bunch about it, and I said, okay, tomorrow morning, we're going to come back in the office. And Matt, that was the name of the CEO. I said, Matt, you get to decide, you're the decider, if you want to keep going on this project or you want to start over. I don't know if it's going to work, but we can try starting over the sprint. And he decided to start over. So it was like Monday never happened. Tuesday we started from scratch, literally, okay, what's the long-term goal? And that was my first time really compressing it down, or I should say compressing it down in a way that felt like it still really worked. And it was interesting too, because Monday went really, really well because we had just done it. So it was like we got it like a full day of practice and we got to do it for real. So the team was really engaged and they knew what was coming. So yeah, that's my weird sprint story.
I see here something from Maria. She facilitated the first 45 minutes. Maria, you are here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm the number 23 in the mural. So I'll explain quickly what happened. It was not a design sprint per se, but it was like a 2-day kind of workshop, virtual. And what happens was like half an hour before the meeting, my modem was doing something wrong. So I had no internet, and then 30 minutes turned into 20 minutes, turned into 10 minutes before the meeting. And I was facilitating it, and I was getting very, very nervous. And so I asked other people to share at least the screen, and I managed to call in. And I was just facilitated. Well, I had the slides, I had prepared the slide, but I didn't have them in front of me. And it was very terrible for me. And I tried to do it naturally and present some people and do the sequence was gonna be. And after 45 minutes, I got internet again, and I entered in the normal form. And I don't know if people noticed a lot. I of course said it, but yeah, I think it's not a huge thing, but you realize when you're doing something virtually and you have no internet. Also, the hotspot from the phone didn't work. Oh, I felt so lost.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that story, Maria. I see that.
We
that,
can clap. We can clap.
yeah, please.
It's hard to share these stories, you know.
Yes, they are hard.
It feels painful. That is like my nightmare. And before every sprint, I'm so nervous that it's not going to work. And the first hour is the hardest. The first day is the hardest. The first hour is the hardest of the hardest. I cannot imagine having to, having like a major. Oh my gosh! Did it all did it sort of come together?
Yeah. At the end, it did. When we were going to work together, and I was gonna send the teams to the groups, and so I had control. So yeah, that worked. But it was horrible because I didn't know when it was gonna be, and it was. I don't know if somebody from the Stuttgart area was having these issues here in Germany. We had one day where Vodafone didn't work. And so, you had it, Sabrina. So the modem didn't work and the phone didn't work. So you're lost. You're
Can I ask when that was? I wonder if it was international.
It was in November 5th. November 5th. It was a Monday.
Yeah, it was a Monday. Exactly. I remember. It was the same here. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that story. I see a story from Margriet. Margriet, you want to share?
Hey guys.
Hello. I'm here with Robert, of course.
Hi, nice to see you.
Hello, good to see everybody. No, actually, I was my memory was jogged by Jake's story of the burritos. So I think it was when we were starting with sprints. So it was about 4 years ago, I think. And I was in Madrid running a sprint. And the team didn't want to give up on their lunch ritual, which was 3 courses and bottles of wine and 2-hour breaks. So there I was still, very structured. It was especially in the beginning when I was like, okay, the process works, but as long as I stick to the process, I'm like in control. But then every day it was, bottles of red wine and, 3 courses for lunch. And it was, I learned loads about keeping up energy and focus after bottles of wine. Let's keep it that way. But it's definitely a good memory. And I think my learning there, which is actually not too different from like online sprints that we're doing now, is I think what's beautiful for the sprint is just having very short, how do I say, focus areas. So like 20 minutes, okay, do this. And then 5 minutes, do this. And then 20. So that also works well with alcohol. So same with alcohol or being online. I think that's, I learned early on how to keep teams focused, I think, with that sprint.
It's a good one.
Good to hear.
Thanks, guys. I'll share one too. And mine is like it's a little name droppy, but it's important for the context of the story. So like in the first year that I was at Google Ventures, we go to do this sprint with this company, and the founders of the company were the founders of YouTube. And John, who was in the sprint with me, knew them because he had worked on YouTube for a long time and was a lead designer there. But to me, these guys are like celebrities. So I just remember going in the room, and it's like early enough on where like at this point we have like a good, like the recipe is not like totally dialed in, but like, we've got the steps right, but we haven't like totally locked in on the number of days. So I think we were doing like a 6-day or 7-day sprint or something, but like we're narrowing in on it. But I realized like, oh my God, like we get in the room and John's like, oh, hey, Chad, hey, Steve. And I'm like, yeah, hey guys. And then like, you sort of, but they're nice. And like, there's the pleasantries of meeting anybody and you sit around the table or whatever. And then I realized like, okay, it's time to start doing the thing. Everybody's kind of looking expectantly at us, like it's time to start doing the thing. And I'm like, I right now am going to try to give like advice on how to spend a week of time to these guys who started YouTube. Like I have no idea. They don't know how dumb I am. Like they don't know how little I know. And then we like start doing it, we start doing the sprint, and everybody's just like going along with it. And then at some point I realized like, oh my gosh, like they're going to go along with it. And like, this might actually work. Like the sprint process there might be something to this. But that was a really that was wild. And like, we definitely had a lot of times during our time at GV when we would work with, with founders who we'd heard of. And if you'd have to be a nerd like us probably to have heard of all these folks, but like, it was a really, every single time it was this like crazy experience to see that even these folks who are so smart would benefit from having an outside person come in and provide some structure, for a week. And I still haven't gotten to the point where I feel 100% comfortable with that when you have the founder, like the big boss in the room. But that one in particular was like, so I felt so weird and bizarre. And I can, even talking about it, I can like easily reconjure the nervousness that I felt trying to run my checklist with these folks.
Jake, you left out the most important part of the story. That was the week we discovered the energy zapping power of eating burritos for lunch. You remember that?
The office was right next door to this.
Oh no!
This place had great burritos, and so we're like, day one we like get burritos, and then we're like in the afternoon we're like, oh my god, we're just like so tired. And then we're like, oh,
and then of course we had coffee.
Really
we're like, we're too tired. We need coffee. And then we got like over caffeinated.
Then there was another place up the street.
And I didn't realize how nervous you were, Jake.
I know. Well, I hit it well. There's the place that had the Indian food burritos too. So there were like burritos, and then there were like burritos made out of Indian food. And we alternated between those for just going back and forth because they were both really good. And then finally, I don't know who it was you're like, we've got to it was probably John. He's like, we've got to try a different lunch. This is killing our afternoon.
Can we get a salad?
Yeah. Thus spawns the no burrito rule of the design sprint. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for sharing. Who wants to be next? So what do I see here on the board? I see Leslie Foreman. Leslie.
Hello. Hi, Sabrina. How are you?
Hi. Fine. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Get here. I'm really curious to hear your story.
Yeah. So my story is I was inspired to put on an event called Design Sprint Sexual Health. And it was a side project. I did it on a Saturday here in San Francisco. But I had just started working as a UX researcher for a big tech company. And I attended an event on a Saturday called Design Sprint Immigration that was basically using the Design Sprint framework to think about immigration in new ways. And different groups were assigned to think about different populations of immigrants. And mine was focusing on the needs of working class, undocumented immigrants. And we came up with a concept that we called El Informador. It was a taco truck that provided legal advice, the idea of combining something familiar and something unfamiliar. And I actually mentioned this to some lawyer friends, and they were like, there's a lot of papers involved in this and they could get greasy. So maybe having the legal clinic inside the taco truck wasn't the best idea, but maybe outside the taco truck. Anyways, it got us thinking, and it was a really diverse group of participants that had a lot of different ideas about immigration. And that same week, I had been through some pretty intense medical experiences. And I was like, whoa, this would be fascinating. This workshop was amazing. I would love to put on an event, same format, different topic. And I put on this event called Design Sprint Sexual Health. This was in 2016 on a Saturday. And I had an amazing group of speakers. General Assembly in San Francisco sponsored it, and they sent it out to their marketing list. We made it free. And I hosted this 2 years in a row. The most memorable speaker that I had was somebody who was a sexual health educator for the blind. And she brought in a lot of 3D printed anatomical models that she uses to teach blind and visually impaired people about their bodies. It was awesome. But anyways, we went through this whole design sprint framework and got people talking, got people thinking in new ways, learning different methods, talking to people, and most importantly, talking about all sorts of topics that people don't always talk about, but really should. And what was the prototype? The prototypes were all like presentations or skits. So it was just in the concept stage. And I brought all of this enthusiasm into my day job work. I have run tons of user research workshops, mostly with engineering teams, to bring them into the process. But I just wanted to share that I had brought this into this sexual health framework. I have a little video that one of my participants made that I put on the board that you can watch if you want.
Yeah. I see that.
Great.
Thanks. I get a question here. What was the prototype?
I don't think we made a prototype. It was a skit.
Okay.
But the one of the speakers had brought in her 3D printed anatomical models, but those were more her props than ours.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie.
Nice.
Okay, Steph, you want to choose the next one?
To choose one. Wait.
You know, you can also raise your hand in the Zoom. If you know how that works, you just have to go to your where you see this the participant, and then you can raise your hand there, your virtual hand. So that's all. That could be also a way, if you don't have something to share on the board, you just can tell us.
I would like the one from Jean-Sébastien, A Chaotic Christmas. Sounds good. Jean-Seb?
Yeah, here I am. So basically, I've been doing workshop for past few years now, and it's always hard to explain people like how it works, why you should use notes and vote and everything. So with a group of friends, and where we try all these different kinds of workshop and sprints, instead of doing a usual Zoom meeting for Christmas, I created a workshop around different parts of the sprint called A Chaotic Christmas. So yeah, it was kind of funny. So we have like an ugly sweater Christmas contest here and there. So people can like choose their ugliest sweater. So it makes people like try to vote in a limited amount of time. There's a workshop called The Worst Gift, in which like people only write down why it's the worst gift, and then people try to speculate on what it could be. And then one of the exercises also we created an exercise around how might we's, but instead of being how might we's, it's you know what S star star star. I cannot say it if you don't want to be censored here, but it's all about saying things about the worst party you ever had in the office. And we also do like user journey map, but based around a bad Christmas family party, where at the end the turkey always start and combust and flame and everything's burned. So I did it 3 times already, and I'll be doing it with my family during the holidays, so they can see what I'm actually doing for a living, or some kind of thing I'm actually doing for a living.
Woohoo! So we can actually hire you if we want Bad Santa. We can
Yeah,
get you to organize Christmas, right?
sure. It's gonna be hard.
Good.
What about Ross? Do you have a story to share with us?
I haven't written anything.
Doesn't matter. I think you also have something in your mind. You could share.
Yeah, so a bit of an oddball, but it's the one that comes first to mind. Most of the design sprints I've ever done are around digital products, and this one that was not digital at all, out of my wheelhouse, and we had to print some posters for Jake, you'll know, Save the Children. And the day of prototyping, the printer didn't work.
Printing.
And we could not print anything. We started printing it, and instead of, we put like clip art animals in, and what it would do, it would print a square instead of a bear, and it would print a circle instead of a bird, and it was really embarrassing. So yeah, that was, we got around there in the end, but that was a disaster. Was
it your last physical prototype, or?
It was the last non-digital one I've done. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. That's the kind of stories we want to hear. That's really nice. Can I call out someone else? Lee?
He's not here, unfortunately.
Lee is here.
Oh, he is.
Lee?
Oh, yeah.
Out there. I'm sure you have many stories to share.
I have a lot of stories. I would say I'm constantly learning. One of the biggest stories I would say is working with an external charity called Miracle Relief. And the thing there is we're trying to come up with a new way to develop currency for blockchain. And we didn't know what to do at first, but actually just by using the sprint method, we're able to figure it out and come up with some examples. So that was probably my best application of the sprint.
Wow. Oops. Oh, no, I'm not gone. That was just...
We actually lost Sabrina.
That was me.
The world is collapsing.
Sabrina.
Thanks for sharing.
Sure. Yeah, I was trying to find a link, but yeah, it's called Miracle Relief Collaboration, and we were searching for a way just to kind of come up with some ideas with a bunch of folks that didn't have comfort with design, and by experimenting with the design sprint and putting it out there, it gave us a way, a map, a degree of confidence in how we could come up with solutions, and then ultimately, like I said, we came up with a blockchain solution for natural disaster. And I honestly believe that if we didn't have the map, it wouldn't have given us the confidence to have that meeting, to bring people together. It wouldn't have given us the ability to come up with really wild ideas. And it really was an example of how we were able to use it to produce something really productive and meaningful, aside from a lot of other ways that I typically use it. Like I've used the design sprint before to figure out what we're having for lunch or where we're going on vacation. We've done those things and they have a place. But like I said, it gave us a means and a methodology to come together, a group of folks, and come up with wild ideas. And now it's being built, it's real. And that was the result of the design sprint.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. There is a comment for you, Lee. Yassir, yeah. It's you who wrote, right?
Asynchronous sprint, I guess that was from Yassir. Yeah, and I was part of that as well. So maybe you can share something there.
Asynchronous.
Yeah, I guess that it means, but I wanted to ask that as well, because this is really weird and maybe sounds a bit weird, but maybe you want to share that story.
I'll say a few words. So, I think it's important for all of us to constantly experiment. And although I've done a lot of sprints, nothing compared to a lot of you, I think there's, the classic sprint always works, as you said, Sabrina. You never can go wrong. If you're ever in question, just go back to the original sprint. You will not fail. But I continue to experiment and try to find better ways. I work for a really big company, and it's difficult to have enough design sprinters available. So what we've experimented with, I think there are other folks in this virtual room that are also experimenting with it. But as far as asynchronous, how can you make use of tools and technology to make it so you can scale or get network effects, whatever you want to call it, with a sprint? And I think there's something that we can all work on together in developing an asynchronous technology stack. That's one where you can see what is the progress of the people in the sprint. You may be geographically isolated. You may be on the other side of the earth, but you can still keep it tight as far as conversation, knowing about the, understanding what is the progress of the team as far as finishing that sprint, allowing for communication, wholeness, being engaged. I think that is something we can all work on together as far as making it more asynchronous, using tools, using the technology stack, making it more transparent.
This is cool. Is this one of your personal idea, or is this something you're working on at IBM?
I've been working on it at IBM because we refer to it as a GIE, IBM Globally Integrated enterprise. And we have humans basically everywhere on Earth, and we're working around the clock. And if you want to be effective, you've got to figure out a way around that, because you can't be all together. Everyone's going to be tired. Every once in a while, we'll run a sprint where we're all together, but people are working at really strange hours. And so you'll get that GIE fatigue, Zoom fatigue, whatever fatigue, you're super fatigued. And if you want to be sprinting frequently, often, being highly productive, you've got to find a way out of it. So I think using tools, using automation, we're experimenting with some automation tools, figuring out the stack, and making it feel similar as being in the same room, right? Because we all know, just like I have a daughter, and if she's not online and the teacher hasn't provided clear instructions as far as what to do for homework, sometimes the homework may not get done. So you've got to find a way to use social pressure, social cues, technology, transparency, fun, enjoyment. And I think that's something, especially the talent in this room could figure out. And that would be a complement to the design sprint. Nothing could ever replace the original design sprint because it's just awesome. But I think it is a nice adjunct to the current process with using tools, and especially when we're apart like this in a pandemic, having that skill or something like that in your back pocket, I think would be quite useful.
Thank you, Lee. So after all the very smart things that Lee just said, I have something very stupid to share with you. Are you with me? Yeah. So it's number 9 on the board. I got a huge fail during one of my design sprints, and you know that moment. So you can see on the number 9, there is a crowded table with everyone sketching, solution sketch, and they are all into it. They spend, like 1 hour sketching the solution sketch. And at the end of the solution sketches, I'm like asking the decider to give me his sketch, so I could actually put it on the wall after the break. And he gives me the sketch, and I'm so clumsy that I managed to spill his coffee on the whole table, including his solution sketch. So you can see actually on the photo, it's the sketch top right, and you can see it's still stained with coffee. And whenever I see that photo, I'm like, I'm so clumsy. I felt really so bad.
Good one.
Yeah. And that's something that's not happening anymore with the remote sprints, right?
I managed to do that in remote too.
Oh, you did? Yeah, but you did it for yourself.
Who said that?
Ram, hi.
Ram,
yeah.
Tell me, how did you manage with your coffee on your side, right?
So wherever there is, wherever there is something to spill, I will spill it.
You are that guy, yeah.
If you remember our meeting at AJ and Smart, I spilled water all over Jonathan's office because the bottles were just there. So maybe I should sprint about that.
Nice idea.
Yeah. Anyhow, if I'm already there, I want to tell a story. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Please, yes.
So our first sprint, we had this project, amazing project for Penguin Books to do an AR app, and we looked at the budget, and we realized that we're going to be totally out of budget, but we really wanted to do that. So I talked to Orit, and I said, I heard this lecture about, I don't know, Google Design Sprint, something like that. Maybe we should try that. So we were discussing it, and we sent a quote about it. And then one day before the sprint, we actually bought the book. Then every day I was reading a chapter and doing the sprint on the day after. So I really wanted to know what's happening at the end of the book. So it kept us going. It actually was the sprint saved it. This was the reason why we work with sprint, because it actually saved the project. The founders we worked with, they didn't have a clue on the solution, but they knew what they wanted to do. And we were really concerned about the experience. And when we got to the prototype, and the idea was amazing, to take a real book and put an app on it, and it makes the book come alive with animation. and you can switch the pages and you see different animation, different interaction. It sounds so great. And they had the technology, everything was working. But when we got to the prototype, it really, really was bad experience because holding the book and the app and the kids didn't work. And it saved the project because we changed the product. We did an iteration sprint on that, and we took the entire book into the app. And so, yeah, the ending was not a happy ending of the sprint, but it was a good book. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Malin in the chat is asking for success stories. Who has a success story to share?
Yeah, and she said that Helen should go for it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Okay. Thank you, Sabrina, for the nice event you are arranging. It's super fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks to all.
Yes, thank you to all of us. So Malin wants me to share a success story. And I think, Malin, I think both of us, we think about the same success story. So we did a physical prototype last year. And imagine you're in a dairy, which produces milk or juice or whatever. It's maybe 30 meters long, the line where you produce the product. So you have a filling machine in the middle. And then further down in the downstream equipment, you have a machine that puts together trays with packages. And the exercise or the challenge we had in the design sprint was to help the operator. If something goes wrong with this machine, how can we help the operator to fix the problem as soon as possible? Because if it takes too long time, you have to stop the filler. And you can imagine if you have so many liters of milk coming per second in the filling machine and you have to stop it, there is so much waste and you have to clean everything. So that was the challenge for the week. And we didn't have a clue, me and Malin, what would be the prototype. So we had prepared a machine in one of our testing halls at Tetra Pak with the exact copy of this particular machine. And we had 8 participants in the design sprint, all engineers. And we came up on the Tuesday after the solution sketches to do an app with a notification to the operator that something is wrong in this machine and lamp indications. Wow. So we had all these, I think we had 2 or 3, I don't remember, Malin, going to one of the local shops buying lamps. And when we built the prototype on the Thursday, all these lamps, they were connected to a PC, so they would light in different orders. So when we ran the tests on the Friday, so we had an operating walking in the so-called dairy, and there was an alarm on the app, which was on the phone. And the guy went to the machine, and there was one lamp, blinking and we said, oh, what do you think about this lamp? I think something is wrong there. Yes. So when the operator opened that door, they did something, the engineers in the background. So there was another lamp opening. So they had a series of different lamps helping this guy to find out where was the problem on the machine. I think this is still, I think since this was in April last year, I think we have done maybe 30 design sprints since this one. And this is still, I would say, such this moment, having those 5, operatings, getting the alarm, going to the machine, and all the, participants, engineers, having the lamps blinking in, this particular order. It was a fantastic moment. It was so much fun. It is.
Wow, thanks for sharing that, Helen. That's amazing. You see, Jake and John, what everyone is doing with what you started. So
yeah.
How do you feel? Maybe you also want to share a success story, or just give us some, let's say, emotions right now.
Like a sprint that you were really proud about. You were like, okay, this is it. We did it.
Yeah, well, I ran 2 sprints the last 2 weeks. I was running 2 sprints with the same company, and it's a startup who's doing well with their core business, but they want to do a new thing, and that's a great time to run a sprint. But they had already made a bunch of progress on what they thought would be the MVP, and they were starting to think maybe this isn't the right MVP. And I haven't run many sprints over video. This year I have been, doing a lot of things, but one of the main things has not been running sprints. And I was nervous. I had signed up to do these 2 sprints and it was going to be over video. And as the sprints approached, the 2 founders started to pay, I guess, more and more attention to the project. So they said, actually, instead of just making a cameo appearance, we're going to be in the sprint the whole time. And I was like, that's great. But I was also like, oh, geez, like, I hope it works. And like I was trying to line up all the tech and I'm making like a new template in Miro. And I'm just like doing all this stuff. Like, I'm like, oh, geez, I hope it all works. And like the first day, like, I could tell they were like a bit skeptical about the whole process, which is always the case, and especially tough over video because you can't read everybody. And the 2 founders are like kind of disagreeing a bit with each other and kind of disagreeing a bit with the other people on the team. And I was like, oh my God, like this is tough enough to handle in person, but over video, I don't know if it's going to work. We just keep going with the sprint, and my co-facilitator and I are talking all the time and like, okay, we do, what's your read on the team and everything. And we go through the weekend, it feels like we're going pretty good. We got the prototype, but we take on too much to prototype. I did it in Figma. I've never used Figma for prototyping before. And I was really reluctant to do it, but they had this really nice Figma file with all of their like brand stuff in it. So we decided to use Figma. And of course, like, it was hard to not stop and try to make everything perfect. That's why I don't like to use it. So it's been too long on the prototype and I'm like, man, I'm breaking all my own rules. And we do the first test on Friday morning and like the tech wasn't working. We couldn't get the sharing to work on the other person's end of Zoom. And like the founder's like pinging me and is like, come on, like this is embarrassing for us. And I was like, oh, I'm so stressed. And then, but like we like slow down, like take a deep breath. We like, okay, wait, pause. Like, let's just take 10 minutes. It's not you to the participant and it's the tech. Don't worry, we're not testing you. Let's just take our time. We get Zoom going. Finally, we just sort of like get all the kinks worked out. We run the test and I have like no idea, like we run all our tests throughout the day and then we're recapping with the team and the founders are like, that was amazing. Like that was the best week of our we've had all year. And the next week we do it again, we sprint again, and we have to pivot and go in a different direction. And by the end, they've got confidence in one of these 2 prototypes we've tested head to head. And they're like really excited about it. And we do the recap at the end and we're talking about our key learnings. I used a little template that Steph showed me that was really cool for kind of asking everybody to give their key learnings. And they were like, they were kind of like you couldn't really read them most of the time, but then at the end they were like, this is so amazing. Like they're talking to different people on the team. They're like, I haven't had the chance to work with you, directly. Like, it feels like we just have a half-hour meeting here, a half-hour meeting there. I got to see how smart you guys are. It was just like a big, like, like virtual hug fest. And it was so cool to see the power of it, especially because I had been so stressed the whole time. Like I didn't know that it was working. I was thinking like, this is a disaster. And I just thought like how cool it is to get to be in the room. I mean, the truth is that I was in the right place at the right time to have the chance to mess with processes and get to do this. But there's nothing in the design sprint itself that's not kind of obvious. And I think anyone who was in the spot that I was in would have come up with something like this. But what's been really special for me about the last 10 years and what's so special about seeing all of you is that this opportunity to be in the room with people when they're working on the thing that's most important, the most important part of something that they've already chosen to focus their career on, right? Or like to focus their work on. It's such a special moment to be there. It's such a great opportunity to help them, to be like the butler who helps to bring the right thing at the right time so that they can do the thing that they want to do. And I feel lucky to have been the butler who was able to have the pieces and the time and the weird job that allowed me to find the pieces to bring to you all so you can do it for other people. But that's what we are, we're butlers helping other people to do the thing that matters most to them and helping to, I think, unlock something that's really special, like a moment that's really special for people in their work and something that brings them closer to their customers so that their work in turn is touching other people in a deeper and more important way. And I just think it's really lucky and really special. And I'm so grateful that all of you would spend the time to talk about this for as long as you have, and to come here, and that you're doing the work that you're doing. And I just want to let you all know how much I appreciate you, and you know, here's to the next 10 years.
Woo!
There is no way we can continue after that.
We want to hear a story from John as well.
Done.
Yeah, can you also
Well,
share?
there's no way I can follow that
Yeah.
eloquent and heartfelt send off. So
John is
I will
an exception,
pass. That
so
was
it's true.
that was like such a natural way to sort of bring things together that I could share with you a sprint story, but it wouldn't be as good.